Now, our next talk plays well into the last topic. I welcome Jonathan Leßman from SWIAT, the blockchain for regulated financial entities.
Thank you very much. Is this on? Good? Okay. Yeah, thank you very much, and happy to be here and to present to you the blockchain for regulated financial entities, which we are currently developing, and yeah, as well happy to show how innovation actually can happen on such a software infrastructure that can be created between financial entities, especially regulated financial entities. So, talking about financial entities, maybe, or institutions, from experience, we can summarize all the issues mainly into two questions. Right? One is the future question: are we fit for the future? Which is a competitive one. And the other one is more a technological question: how do we stay connected? And I will briefly jump into both of these questions to highlight the issues regulated financial entities currently face, to highlight more how we try to overcome them and lead financial institutions into adopting DLT in a joint network. The fit for the future question is maybe the most obvious one, right? Because always you get asked by a consultant, are you still competitive in the future? But in this case, of course, I guess in this round it's pretty obvious. The disintermediation case due to blockchain always leads to the question, will we still be relevant? Like today in the panel discussion, will custodians remain relevant in the entire space? Are they still needed? Yes or no? And in the same time, we see that fintechs are on the rise, are capturing value, and that value is redistributed. And financial institutions are having issues in exploiting exactly these advantages of DLT and to capture the value on their own. And the other part, which is maybe the worst one we have to focus on, is how do we stay connected, is are we currently facing a technological insolvency in these institutions? Because what you have to imagine is a financial institution has kind of a monolithic legacy system, right? If you change one bit, everything has to change with it. You need a lot of effort to change anything in those systems, and which leads to the issue that they barely connect to new environments. And while considering starting maybe with blockchain technology and working with blockchain and offering their own solutions, the question is maybe which blockchain and how do we connect to that from a technological point of view? And then how can I exploit then these DLT advantages and benefits? And do I have to connect to every blockchain in the world to offer my clients all the potential assets? And these are currently the questions we noticed are driving these entities and institutions, which ultimately can be subsumized in the report, were subsumized in the report from the World Economic Forum already back in 2021 in May, calling it the collaboration paradoxon. The collaboration paradox was described as, okay, the technological point of view, the advantages offered by the technology have become obvious and they are proven. However, firms are still reluctant to work together and to collaborate because everyone is fearing to lose out on what they have created. And as a result, everyone is trying to build everything on their own, meaning that we have a patchwork of different initiatives, a patchwork of different solutions, and hence a very limited ability to reach scale in these solutions because of the patchwork scenario we have. Everyone is creating infrastructure, everyone is trying to bring their use case up front, etc., etc. And this is kind of how we see the world nowadays, that we say, okay, maybe we have these different layers. We have the IT setup, we have the network, and we have the use case. And each use case nowadays has its own network and IT configuration, right? And this leads to fragmentation even more because now I am fragmenting per use case. I have more technological depth if I just simply adapt one use case and the next use case and the next use case, because there is no strategy behind it, because I have to analyze each network again and again because they are all different to each other. And ultimately, this endangers the value chain, the control over the value chain, because ultimately, as well, my customer interface will be challenged by those actors that are providing the specific IT setup configurations or blockchain networks, or are helping me to provide any of these services. And when we see that a financial institution is pushing forward an innovation, maybe a certain innovation, right, they have to manage with a lot of different stakeholders. For example, tokenization use case, right, you will always have to talk to some kind of business unit and legal unit, always questioning you, well, do we benefit? How do we make money? And is this even legal? Are we allowed to do this, right? These are the funny questions. They always make fun because we're going to conquer the world and make a lot of money. But after that, the regulatory questions await, right? The network question always asking, well, how does this network, how does this solution fit into our current regulation and our current requirements we have to solve? And then you have to deal with compliance, legal, IT security, and this again and again for each different use case you're trying to adopt, because it's always on a different network or a different IT configuration, right? And ultimately the IT team that is currently heavily under stress because they are fighting the technological insolvency currently, right? Remember the monolithic infrastructure and legacy systems. They will ask you, do you truly need that? Do we really need that use case? This is a lot of work, and we still have to solve a lot of different work in advance. And all this is preventing innovation in this space by regulated financial institutions, and we try to overcome this. Maybe the three main points on how we try to overcome this, right? We try to achieve scalability, interoperability of the different use cases, and already conformity with regulatory standards on the network level and on the infrastructure level. And the core idea behind this is one innovation platform, right? One innovation platform on which entities can develop, deploy, and market their own solutions, and that independently of each other. So there is competition, yet we are using a common ground. And this is how we think we can overcome the collaboration paradox. Maybe what is an innovation platform, right? Not everyone that has studied platforms will know what an innovation platform is. Innovation platform is basically this: going from mobile phones to smartphones, right? Going from having 3 use cases on each mobile phone, calls, SMS, and playing Snake, to having a vast amount of use cases where the competitive differentiation ultimately happens on the application side rather than on the technology side, right? The competitive differentiation between a banking service in an app is not that I'm using iOS or Android. The differentiation is the value I get myself from the service inside this application. They are not benefiting from using iOS or Android at all. However, both of these environments, these innovation platforms, provide a common ground to work on and to scale, and to make it as well accessible on every different environment and technological interface. So how do we think this will look like, right? And what do we offer? We offer the software for this. So we say our software helps you to overcome the collaboration paradox, right? We propose to cooperate at the infrastructure level so that you can reuse the IT setup multiple times and that you always have the same configuration on the same network while competing on the use case side. You can deploy your own use case, you can develop your own use case where you have true competitive differentiation, yet you do not have to answer all the questions again and again by introducing every time a new use case. Rather, you have a strategy on how you approach DLT. And this overcomes the fragmentation challenge as well, because you now have a common environment on which you can achieve modularity and customizability, because you are free to choose which use cases you want to deploy and use on your own, and which ones you not. We all know this. We don't download all the apps from the App Store. We just use those that suit us most. And how does this maybe work in a little bit more of detail, right? The co-opetition, we divided it into 2 areas. Mainly the cooperation happens on the network side, where we have the different regulated financial entities deploying and using the SWIAT software to create a common network on which they can interoperate and have as a common basis. And on top of that, they are competing in their use cases, right? For example, what we just heard, registry keeping for crypto securities and electronic securities in general. Yeah, SWIAT as well is providing software for that as well. However, you're free to use your own software. You're free to introduce your own software. You're free to develop your own software and to market it to others on this environment. And what we then do in this case is that we use our SWIAT framework to ensure interoperability with the next independent business case, so that the data structure, etc., all this, so that I can see one asset not only in one business case, so that when I make a PDF file, for example, and I want to send it out via Outlook, that this is interoperable. How bad would it be if we could create a PDF file on our mobile phones and couldn't send it out, right? All these have common standards, are interoperable, are working with each other. And we see that this is currently not in the market. This is something that we see that is missing. And for example, what we could foresee that on the same environment, on the same technological foundation, we could see several DLT pilot regimes which are competing with each other, yet are interoperable because they're on the same technology stack. So this is our approach to scalability, right? Separating the DLT network and the DApps, as well as separating the governance of both of these aspects. What we do, we provide the software for the network, that's fine, but we don't run it. We're not a financial institution, we're a software company. If you want to develop your own business case, you're free to do so. If you want to deploy it, feel free to do so. And the interoperability is not only inside of this network. We envisage as well to have interoperability with other networks as well, obviously. And this is why we are setting up, why we're building on top of the EVM-compatible environment, meaning Ethereum Virtual Machine, of course, where the biggest innovation place is currently going on, where a lot of startups are trying new things and trying them out, yet having to bring them still into the new regulated world. And maybe not to lose focus on the conformity with regulatory standards, which is something that makes us stand out from other blockchains, is not only the clear distribution of roles and responsibilities we have on top, on the side of the business case sides, but as well in the network. In the blockchain network itself, we have developed an identity management system that is directly on-chain, which enables you as an institution to get your own digital representation and organize your institution inside of this. We call it the tenant structure. Meaning you can manage how your own workflows are working, how your processes are going, where you want a 4 eyes principle and where do you want a 6 eyes principle, where you want another confirmation, etc. You are free to set up these workflows on your own independently of others. And this enables you to simply start with blockchain without the need of a key management software, right? You don't need this for your own sakes. You can already start and get your own experience with it. Hence, right, when you start with a use case, what we always say is, well, without a use case, blockchain is pointless, right? If you don't have a use case, you don't have to search technology which could solve with. But if you have not the right network, if you don't have the right technology stack for your use case, you are as well in the same situation, even if you're trying to find a use case for that purpose, right? So if you have a use case and you want to innovate and you want to start, you have to think as well already from the beginning, not only about the use case, but as well about the network you want to deploy it in. And we think, of course, that we have a reasonable solution for that. Maybe just only a few words on this, because I could talk about this for days. Of course, is the SWIAT ecosystem in general. So what can I do with this? I've talked a lot about the network. What are my capabilities already? What can I start with? In the center, we have the SWIAT platform, right, with the identity management for institutions, etc. But around it, we are already working on a variety of different use cases, and which we want to help to enable and to deploy, but not only by ourselves. explicitly as well with third parties, for example, like partner products, where as well custody services come into play for third entities, and, for example, derivatives might be an interesting use case. On the other hand, which assets are already available? We have set up this network that it can handle traditional assets as well as digital assets on the same environment, meaning we are combining both worlds. From a trading perspective or from an asset management perspective, this is highly interesting because I finally get liquidity between those assets. And who can join? Of course, banks, infrastructure managers, and asset manager and infrastructure provider, all those that think that they can still offer value in this setup. So on that end, we are very open and keen to invite further actors and partners to develop and push the network. A lot about what is SWIAT, what are we doing, what are we solving, maybe a few words on who we actually are. We are currently a subsidiary of DekaBank, and when we were at DekaBank, this team that is still part and is the very core of SWIAT, settled a total volume of over 500 million euro already in transactions, including crypto security transactions, digital registered bond transaction, which was actually a green one, and traditional securities as well on chain. Those are all included inside of this number. Meaning we were the team that, we helped DekaBank as a team to issue the very first crypto securities any German entity has ever issued, German bank in that sense. We enabled the green digital registered bond with Wasserkronan already back in 2021. We enabled securities lending with traditional securities on chain. And we introduced a new trade type, delivery versus delivery, which we as well proved in production with Bankhaus Metzler. All of this was already public at the time, but wanting to give you as well a perspective on who SWIAT is and maybe why it's suddenly popping up as its own brand name. So, SWIAT at a glance, we have a network. We offer you the Financial Industry App Store, which we would like to create jointly with you and all the others that are developing their own use cases and pushing them forward. We try to push the competition element up front so that we can overcome the collaboration paradox and provide you with an innovation platform. Right? We say, let's compete on the business side and work together on the infrastructure side, because decentralized networks are for decentralized organizations and decentralized teams. We can together form such a network. Hence, we provide you the world of digital assets at the heart of banking. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Jonathan. Actually, we are out of time, but I want to ask you 3 questions, and you get only a total of 5 words to answer, all right? I think you implicitly already said them in your presentation, but the Telegram group buzzed, so I wanted to forward that. How many validators do you have? Are they screened? Is it a permission chain? And how does consensus mechanism look like?
5 words. No.
3 now. Just kidding.
No, so it is currently, for the time being, it's a permission network. So the validators are well chosen. They must be regulated financial entities or must be by their IT support providers. I guess that's on that end. And on the validation mechanism, we're currently using a kind of proof of authority mechanism, combining it with a zero knowledge proof element, and are pushing that forward because, of course, a regulated financial entity does not be questioned why it does this transaction. It just has to go through and be documented, and the responsibility is still borne by.
How many validators do you currently have?
We're currently rolling out.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much, Jonathan. Please give it up one more time for Jonathan Leßman and SWIAT.